In that pivotal instant, my former spouse turned to the judge and declared with chilling assertiveness, "She is unfit, manipulative. She deceives our little girl. I demand sole custody." The world seemed to stop spinning. His words, uttered with such cold precision, hung heavily in the air. And the judge, her expression was unreadable, but there was a flicker that suggested she was entertaining his claims. My voice felt trapped behind an invisible barrier. My body was rigid, numbly perched on the unforgiving courtroom bench. Here was a man, once my partner, the one who had professed undying love, now framing me as a threat to the most precious individual in my life, our daughter, Sophie. Sophie, aged 7, clung to my mom's hand just a few rows back, her big, hazel eyes observing everything, mirroring the storm of emotions I felt. She seemed to understand the gravity of the moment. I was floundering, yet it appeared I was alone in my struggle. Dressed in a crisp gray suit, Damon presented himself not as the estranged husband full of unkind words I knew, but as an embodiment of calm and collected fatherhood. His demeanor was one of a consummate professional, perhaps ready to speak on an esteemed stage rather than contest custody of our daughter. His charisma, which once drew me to him, had never faltered. It was part of the facade. When the judge turned her inquiry to me, expecting a rebuttal, I could barely manage a whisper, my throat tight with emotion. Beside me, my lawyer offered a supportive glance but remained quiet. The courtroom fell into a tense silence, awaiting my response. My fingers were shaking. I was on the verge of losing my daughter, and it seemed the world was blind to Damon's deception. Then, cutting through the tension, was a small, determined voice from behind. "Your Honor, I have something on my tablet from Dad's phone that you should watch." The room pivoted in unison, and confusion danced across the bailiff's face. Damon's complexion turned pale. Accustomed to her composed demeanor, Judge Harmon now wore an expression of genuine surprise. With deliberate steps, Sophie advanced beyond the wooden rows, bypassing Damon, and bravely approached the judge with her tablet in hand. I hadn't known she brought it, nor what it contained. I hadn't known she'd been recording. But as she handed over the device, I felt a seismic shift in the room. "What's on here?" the judge inquired, a note of curiosity in her stern voice. "It's from last weekend." Sophie's voice was calm yet assertive. "Daddy didn't know I was listening. He was very angry." Through her brave act, my daughter had brought the truth to light in a way I hadn't been able to articulate. Suddenly, the very courtroom that had felt so alien and hostile was transformed. It was now Sophie's arena. Reflecting back on the times before the tension of the courtroom and the sterile exchanges, it was just us. Sophie and me. Our small apartment was our sanctuary with its modest living space adorned with 2 bedrooms and a single bathroom. It was our happy, albeit humble abode with floors that complained under the slightest footfall late at evening. Yet Sophie loved our little world, endearingly dubbing it our sanctuary. She cherished her room's pink curtains, insisting they bathed her space in a dreamlike glow akin to a candy cloud. Nightly, she insisted on 2 bedtime stories instead of one, sinking into her sheets, hugging her plush turtle, Moby. Despite the tight demands of my freelance writing job, these moments were non-negotiable pleasures. My mother, living nearby, was our rock, her presence a frequent blessing, often turning up with a home-cooked meal or tidying our space with motherly care, reminding me, "Arya, you're stronger than you realize." Sophie's spirit was gentle, yet keenly perceptive, unsettling adults with her poignant inquiries. Witnessing me in a vulnerable, tear-streaked moment one night, she wordlessly draped her blanket over me, a silent sentinel in my time of need. Our treasured ritual was our truth jar, a safe haven for her curiosities and fears post-separation from Damon. Whether whimsical or heart-wrenching, each slip of paper drawn from that jar meant engaging in candid, often healing dialogues. As I watched my daughter now, standing defiantly with truth as her shield, I realized the little apartment and our simple routines weren't just the backdrop to our lives, they were the bedrock of our bond, and Sophie was proving to be its fiercest protector. I remained truthful when she asked, always, even when the truth was painful. The separation from Damon had been anything but smooth. He seemed more concerned with exerting control than he was with our daughter's actual well-being. Although the divorce papers stated we had joint custody, his actions told a different story. He nitpicked over my parenting choices, made a fuss about the meals I prepared, and was relentless if I was even slightly late to pick her up. On the days Mila returned from his place, she was often silent and distant, sometimes not speaking to me until well into the next week. I had raised these concerns in court, yet Damon knew how to charm a crowd. A former college athlete turned charismatic sales leader, he could light up a room and remember every detail about the people he met. His confidence seemed innate, a stark contrast to his behavior in private, where the smallest mishaps could set him off. I kept a meticulous record. Every harsh email, every unjust message, I had them compiled. I had texts where he berated me, called me things no child should ever hear their father say about their mother. But I shielded Mila from those words, thinking I was protecting her. Then one evening, after a particularly cold exchange during drop off, Mila asked me if I ever felt afraid around her father. Looking down at her cereal, her voice barely a whisper, she admitted she did too, but believed she shouldn't talk about it. That night, I lay awake, haunted by the thought that maybe I hadn't done enough to shield her, that my attempts at maintaining peace were actually just silent surrenders. Not long after, Damon sought full custody. He claimed I was the one causing emotional harm to Mila, that I fed her lies about him, that I was too erratic and unstable to parent effectively. His lawyer presented a slew of accusations painting me as unfit. Reading them made my hands tremble. I had to sit down, overwhelmed. My friend Carolyn stayed by my side, gripping my wrist tightly, insisting, "The truth is on your side." I wanted to believe her, yet in court, truth seemed to lose its volume, overshadowed by legal maneuvers and strategic narratives. Damon's attorney depicted me as a woman coming undone. My attorney advised me to keep my composure, to speak only when prompted, not to let my emotions get the best of me. But internally, I was frantic. Mila saw every hidden tear, heard every whispered reassurance, even when I wasn't sure things would be okay. I didn't realize how closely she was observing, how deeply she was listening, or what she was planning. Mila was just 7 years old, yet she seemed to grasp the gravity of truths unspoken. She understood that the truth needed not just to be told, but seen and acknowledged by the court. The day of the hearing arrived. Sleep had eluded me the night prior. Mila slept holding her stuffed penguin, Pepper, and I watched over her until dawn, a heavy feeling in my chest. This wasn't merely a legal battle, it was a fight for her future. My mother accompanied us that morning, donning her most dignified scarf, a symbol of the strength I felt I'd lost. Mila chose a blue sunflower dress and packed her school tablet, her routine unchanged. She was quiet during the drive, humming a melody unfamiliar to me. As we entered the courthouse, Damon was already there, clad in the navy suit from our rehearsal dinner, only this time, his smile lacked any genuine warmth, replaced by a veneer of strategy. His lawyer, composed and poised, whispered strategy into his ear. Damon looked our way, offering a hollow grin and a casual wave, as if we were merely guests at a benign gathering. Mila, catching the insincerity, did not wave back. The courtroom had the chill of a theater, sterile and exact. The docket bore our names, but it felt like it was my character, as portrayed by Damon, that was on trial. When Judge Harmon entered, the atmosphere tensed immediately. She cut directly to the chase, instructing Damon's lawyer to proceed. His opening framed Damon as the pillar of stability, highlighted his tidy home, his reliable income, and spun a narrative around his supposed efforts to protect Mila from what he described as my emotional volatility. The texts he supplied twisted our conversations into a context that suited his narrative. In one, I conveyed to Damon how drained and strained I felt. He twisted that into a sign of my incompetence and psychological frailty. In a different encounter, I urged him to soften his tone around me, which he then manipulated into accusations of me being domineering and deceitful. There I sat, silenced, as my former partner distorted every word I had ever uttered into a weapon against me. When prompted by the court, Damon spoke with unsettling tranquility. "She's unstable," he asserted. "She paints me as a villain to our daughter. She unsettles her and instills unnecessary fear about me. I'm not seeking custody out of malice. I'm compelled by a need to shield her." The term protect struck me with force. Judge Harmon turned towards me. "Ms. Trafford, your comments?" My throat tightened. words clamped down by a barricade of emotions. My pulse soared, and although words hammered against my heart, wanting to burst forth, my speech faltered. I glanced back at our daughter, Mila, her youthful legs dangling from her seat, her eyes wide with a blend of concern yet lacking fear. My counsel interjected with a feeble attempt to highlight my emotional fortitude and the typical challenges of single motherhood. It fell short, far short, of addressing the depths of the situation. The cruelty Damon had unleashed over a simple phone conversation in Mila's presence, or her renewed nighttime accidents post his visits, never surfaced in the conversation. The judge merely nodded, scribbling notes. Damon rose once more, confidently. Your Honor, I request full custody. I believe my daughter suffers emotionally in the current arrangement, and I no longer see joint custody as her beneficial choice. The room seemed to cave in around me. My breath grew shallow, my hands gripped the armrest tightly. Once again, my eyes found Mila, uncertain how to shield her from this blatant unraveling. Then, unexpectedly, Mila released her grandmother's grip, stepping forward with a determined stride without seeking approval. Your Honor, she proclaimed, raising a video on her tablet. This is from Dad's phone. It's important. Damon's color drained. My mother inhaled sharply. I swiveled, stunned. There stood Mila, tablet raised, her posture firm, her voice resolute. Judge Harmon blinked in surprise. Pardon me? Mila pushed the tablet higher. It's from last weekend. He didn't know I was listening, but I was awake. It seems relevant. Silence choked the courtroom. No words came from Damon, his attorney, or the judge. For a fleeting moment, truth seemed to tilt the scales. Centered in the courtroom, Mila clutched her tablet as if it were armor. Despite the slightly small sunflower dress she wore, she never wavered or sought validation. She faced the justice system alone. I think you need to see this, she insisted once more. Judge Harmon signaled the bailiff with a nod. Bring it here, she directed. Mila walked over, passing the device confidently. The courtroom held its breath, the kind of silence stretched tautly across a canyon. Damon clenched his jaws. His attorney shifted uneasily. The atmosphere was taut. As the judge pressed play, the room filled with the low ambient hum of a recorded background sound, the kind that inhabits the still of night. Damon's voice erupted, harsh, berating. Not the composed demeanor he displayed minutes before. I think you're smart. Try telling someone. You'll be shipped off. Your mother can't help you. The sound of a chair scraping violently, a dish crashing. Mila's timid voice followed. I'm sorry. He snapped. Don't speak back. You should be grateful for your visits. Remember, don't say a thing. The judge paused the playback, staring deeply at the frozen frame, as the courtroom absorbed the jarring disconnect between the man before them and the voice in the recording. Damon squirmed, his lawyer muttered hurried, desperate advice. Yet, all the judge did was raise her hand to silence them, to quiet the chaos. Where did this originate? She asked, maintaining her composure. Without skipping a beat, Mila responded, He left his phone by the sofa. He started shouting. I wanted to capture it. I was frightened, yet I believed that if someone listened, maybe they'd understand me and Mom. My heart clenched. My little girl had been terrified. She'd strategized and executed her plan with a bravery that surpassed many adults. I yearned to rush over, embrace her, and tell her she should never have had to face such a situation. Yet I remained seated. This was her moment to shine. Damon interjected, his tone defensive, as if cornered. Your Honor, that recording doesn't show the whole truth. I was merely disciplining her. She was out of line. Enough, interrupted the judge firmly, her voice soft yet piercing the tense air like a shard of glass. Damon silenced immediately. Judge Thompson then turned her attention to Mila. Thank you for your courage, she stated. You may return to your seat now. Mila gave a slow nod and retraced her steps, each one seemingly heavier than the last. She sank into my mother's arms, who enveloped her in a reassuring hug. The judge's gaze fixed on me. Ms. Harper, do you wish to add anything more? Summoning my strength, I replied, No, Your Honor. My daughter has spoken volumes. The judge gave an affirming nod, leaned back, and momentarily shut her eyes. When she reopened them, her stare swept across the courtroom. Given the evidence presented, I am ordering an immediate reassessment of the custody arrangements. During this review, full temporary custody is awarded to Ms. Harper. Only supervised visits will be allowed for Mr. Cooper. She then directed, "Bailiff, please ensure Mr. Cooper leaves the courtroom at this time." Damon stood, incredulous. This can't be happening. The bailiff stepped closer. A firm yet empathetic look on his face, Damon, after a tense pause, marched out, his attorney trailing behind him in disarray. Afterward, as the courtroom gradually cleared, we remained anchored to our seats. Mila rested quietly against my mother's shoulder. Eventually, I approached them, kneeling down to Mila. "You showed incredible bravery today," I whispered. She merely nodded, her small voice lost to silence. It was apparent now, the enormity of her actions settling upon her tender shoulders. She had not only spoken her truth, but had confronted a tormentor who had conditioned her into silence, transforming our lives henceforth. As Damon was escorted out, an audible relief washed over us, akin to a breeze flowing through an erstwhile stifling room. I could breathe, maybe not fully, but enough to reignite the hope that had dimmed in my heart. The judge exited the bench, her demeanor unaltered, yet her eyes flickered with a distinct kind of acknowledgement toward Mila. Not pity, nor astonishment, but deep respect. I collected our belongings deliberately, hands noticeably trembling as I packed Mila's backpack. She still nestled into my mother, weary yet vigilant, her tablet beside her, the screen dark. I reached for her hand. "Ready to go?" I asked softly. She slid from the bench and took my hand, nodding. As we exited, onlookers' eyes lingered on us. Some averted their gaze swiftly, others stared longer. One lady silently mouthed "brave" as we passed. Outside the doors, I knelt to meet Mila's eyes, hands gently on her shoulders. "Are you all right?" She hesitated, then confessed, "I didn't want to do it, but it was necessary." I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. "They believed you because you were honest and strong enough to stand up when it mattered most." Mila's eyes welled up with tears. "Does this mean I don't have to go back to Daddy's?" I enveloped her in my arms, squeezing tenderly. "You're safe now, and that's what's important." The court officers provided further instructions, including a supervision schedule for Damon pending evaluation by a court-appointed counselor. The battle wasn't over. More hearings and paperwork awaited us, more days in daunting courtrooms. But the toughest hurdle had been cleared. That afternoon, we left the courthouse together, a palpable sense of relief and resilience enveloping us as we stepped into a new beginning. I made my way to my mother's doorstep. The idea of the quiet apartment was too much to bear, with its walls that seemed to amplify loneliness. Outside, it was a bright, sunny day, but inside her kitchen, Mom was stirring a pot of chicken noodle soup. "Soup helps me focus," she'd say during times of turmoil, always finding solace in the rhythm of her wooden spoon. Mila was at the kitchen table, busily scribbling with her crayons while I sat on the sofa, drowning in legal documents that needed my urgent attention. Without a word, she came up to me and handed me her drawing, two intertwined hands cradling a heart, and beneath it, scrawled in her childlike handwriting, "Courage speaks the truth." Tears welled up in my eyes, a fierce and sudden release of all my pent-up emotions. Quietly, Mila nestled close, resting her head against my shoulder. Later, as the day wound down, we revisited our old truth jar, now covered in a thin layer of neglect. It sat in my lap, almost forgotten amidst the chaos, as Mother sat opposite me. "Shall I go first?" I asked gently, but she shook her head and gestured towards a crumpled piece of paper at the top. Unfolding it, I read aloud, "What if the truth causes pain?" I paused, meeting her eyes. "Did you write this?" She nodded slightly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want to hurt Dad. I was just tired of being afraid." I reached for her small, trembling hand. "The truth might be painful, honey, but staying silent is often worse. What you did today was brave. You weren't just defending yourself, you were standing up for both of us. Never doubt that." She gazed at the truth jar before murmuring, I think we should keep this going. We will, I reassured her, and with that promise, the night carried on until she drifted to sleep. In the quiet of the evening, I found myself by the living room window, watching the ordinary bustle of life outside. Inside, however, everything had shifted. Damon no longer dictated our lives or silenced Mila. For the first time since our separation, a deep, relieved breath came easily. 4 weeks later, we were back in court for the final custody hearings. By then, evidence had mounted against Damon. Disturbing accounts from a court appointed psychologist detailing his manipulative and emotionally unstable behaviors, all corroborated by the incontrovertible clarity of a video recording. Despite his denials, the combined weight of the evidence and Mila's own poignant testimony was undeniable. The verdict came, and with it, a rush of relief. No more unsupervised visits. All interactions with Damon were to be strictly monitored. The court had finally seen the truth, and Mila had been its courageous herald. Leaving the courthouse, our steps echoed on the marble stairs, a silent but profound departure from our past challenges. My mother eyed the area vigilantly, although we knew Damon was not a threat today. His voice hadn't pierced my ears since our first court appearance, and for that, I was grateful. That evening, we celebrated quietly at Mila's favorite diner, the one with the whimsical decor and playful meals. Across the table, she looked at me seriously. Is it all over now? I met her gaze, affirming yet honest. It's safer now. We have a lot to heal from, but fear doesn't live here anymore. She stirred her chocolate milk thoughtfully, then smiled. I'm glad I spoke up. So am I, sweetheart. The aftermath wasn't just about recovery, it was about rediscovering strength. Not the kind that roars, but the one that resonates, quietly potent, in a child's bravery to speak her truth. As we moved forward, therapy became a part of my routine again, not as a crutch, but as a path to wellness. Understanding and healing wasn't just a possibility, it was our new reality. And with each day, we learned not just to survive, but to truly feel safe again. Lately, Emma has taken to illustrating her world. The content of her drawings, once gloomy representations of isolated buildings beneath overcast skies, has evolved. Now her canvas blooms with trees firmly rooted and children linked by their tiny hands. Among her collection, there shines a particular favorite, a depiction of our truth jar, which she has proudly placed on her bedroom wall. Each evening, she ensures we revisit it. One evening, I unraveled a slip of paper that bore the question, do brave people feel fear? Her curious eyes met mine as I confirmed, yes, but they don't allow fear to write their finale. Shortly afterward, another query surfaced from the jar. Can children look out for adults too? Holding her gaze, I responded, you have. This narrative is shared not merely as a recount, but as a beacon for those silenced souls caught in contemplation, doubting if their truth holds any weight or if they will ever supersede the facade maintained by others in public spheres. This tale underscores that truth often doesn't emerge wrapped in legal rhetoric or through the solemn courts. Rather, it can stream from the innocent yet profound observations of a child who opts to break her silence. My perception of motherhood has profoundly transformed. Once believing it was my duty to shield Emma from life's harsh realities, I've learned that true strength lies in walking alongside her during turbulent times, teaching her the vitality of honesty and allowing her to witness my vulnerabilities and recoveries. Sure, challenging days are not behind us, but they no longer sculpt our identities. We are no longer confined to the fearful versions of ourselves that once seemed inevitable. We are assertive when necessary, serene by choice, and ever liberated. Emma did more than simply speak her truth in that courtroom. She illuminated our path. For the first time in a long while, I didn't perceive it as losing a part of her, but rather profoundly connecting with who she truly is. If you've stayed to hear this story, I earnestly thank you. It wasn't simple to share, yet it's crucial for such stories to be voiced. Perhaps a mother out there engulfed in her solitude needs to know she's not alone. Maybe she needed this story. If it resonated with you, consider liking the video, sharing it, and perhaps leaving a comment. Your words are invaluable. For more narratives that speak from the heart, do subscribe and activate notifications. More awaits. Thank you once again for your presence. Remain courageous, compassionate, and remember that your truth is significant.